I know a lot of people have come for this because I noticed the ring and ride's arrived, so Peggy's here. I won't say Marty, I won't say Margaret, I won't say that. If I do offend anybody by calling them a TWAT, please forget it. That's topical.
That's topical, current.
Includes you.
I think we've actually made you redundant.
Well, when I knew Greg was doing a presentation, I thought, well, I better do something. Knowing him as I do, one of my mates. First day I started here, it was great, and things carried on. They gave me an office on the ramp, and I was only in there about 3 hours, and some bloke knocked the door, tears in his eyes, and he says, you know, you pinched my office. I said, I've only been here 3 hours. It was a work-study bloke, you probably remember who it was, Pete, the tall bloke. I said, I've only been here 3 hours, so I thought that was a real good start to my life. Then I'd ordered a car. When the car turns up, it was the wrong car. And everybody's trying to get me to have this car. And my boss at the time, Bob Wheeler, said to me, no, you've got it for 3 years. So they had to send the car back. And I used Lord Overton's car for about 6 weeks. And I swore blind it run on fresh air because I never put any fuel in it. Anyway, I worked for a guy called Bob Wheeler. And after 6 months, Bob was shoved out the door. That was a bit embarrassing, really, because it was his wife's 40th birthday party, and we all went to it, and then he come in, and he said, oh, by the way, I've made me redundant today. So that's a good start. Then I worked for a guy called Brian Woodford, if everybody knows Brian, larger-than-life Brian, brought me in. He says, we've gone into a recession, he says, we've got that much stock here, a bit like today, actually, but a lot better than that. So anyway, we actually never bought nothing. We never bought any product in here for about 4 months. We just lived on the stock, which was the good times. At that time as well, just before we hit the recession, we was doing 20 a day, and I think the most we ever did in here was about 96 one week. We failed on a Friday afternoon by 4. And then Brian Woodford retired, and then I worked for probably the worst boss I've ever worked for. Thankfully he's gone, and Pete knows who I'm on about. Who wasn't previously a commodities buyer, and it's a pity he never stayed with it, but never mind, he came there. That was probably the worst days of my working life. Anyway, he left, and I then took over working for, I think it was Adrian Banks, Adrian was good work for, let you manage and let you carry on. Then it was like a rotisserie then. Ian Mullen, and then Mike Brown. Mike Brown, you either loved him or hated him. Mike, I thought, was great. Learned a lot off Mike. Even at my tender years, I learned a lot off Mike. Even how to fly a plane. Although I never put it into I never actually did the flying of the plane, but one day we had to go to France to Houliers to look at bodies, e-coating bodies. And he's telling me all about his flying days, Anyway, we flew into Charles de Gaulle and we sat on the runway ready to take off, and I said, what's this thing about mobile phones, Mike? He said, what do you mean? I said, well, deadly. So if you've got mobile phones on with planes, it really affects everything that they do. I said, honestly, yeah. Anyway, plane taxi starts doing down the runway, and all of a sudden this mobile phone was off. So I looked across and I said, Mike, you mean typical, and I said, it's you? I had to switch his mobile phone off. But that was a good day with that. I think I've been here 21 years and thoroughly enjoyed it, but just some of the things I think I'll miss, and I feel a bit like Ricky Gervais now at the Oscars, so if I offend anybody, I won't apologise because I'm going anyway. So. First things I'm going to miss is driving up that drive on a rainy morning at 6:30 and the barriers are down. Now whatever winds me up, it's the barriers being down, and all of a sudden, and we all know who it is, Tony's head comes round the corner and he goes, oh, it's you! And I say, of course it's me, it's 6:30 in the morning, it's tipping it down the road and I'm in a great big 4x4. It's me every morning at this time. I'll miss the breakfast email, like we all will, won't we? Yeah. Just to say the breakfast van's arrived. I'll miss the panic to get to it before Jackie Pye does. And then, if she gets there before me, you just hope and pray there's something left. I'll miss IT, Nick, Mark and the lads. His motto to me is, why do it today when you can put it off for 6 months? I'll miss lunchtime. Me and Phil get by the clock, we're just waiting for it to go to 8:30. And all of a sudden, Tony McKinnon comes round, woof, it's time to walk. And I don't know how he does it. He times a walk from his lab laptop to clock out, and he just gets there on time. I missed the walk around with Phil and Richard, listening to about rugby that I ain't got a clue about, and Phil can't say the inch.
I will convert you. I'm sending you emails now.
He was talking about hookers for 3 years, and I thought it was about prostitutes.
I was.
It was. I miss my mate Paul Francis. When I say good morning to him, and he always says, the computer says. And I say, what time is it? He'll say, the computer said it's 10 o'clock. Paul knows what I mean. I miss Pete's smooth flow meetings. What can I say about the smooth flow meetings? I miss Aidan Frost, whenever he is squirming, trying to explain why all his graphs are red, yet again. And I'm sure he thinks red is the new green. I miss again Paul Woolley, trying to explain to Pete why his pamphlet doesn't doesn't say what's on the screen, and why he hasn't updated all the slides we've all sent him. But Paul does that every week, don't you, Paul? And I miss Graham Jones, I think. He's one of the few people that you walk in and you walk out and you think, have I been conned again? 9 times out of 10,
You listening, Mark?
Okay? I miss my other mate Lou, whose sole aim in life is to upset as many people as he can.
Winning today as well.
I'll miss Greg, but I won't miss Greg. I'll miss apologising to Pauline when Greg sends an obscene phone call. And he's got the numbers mixed up. As an example, Paul will tell you, he was in the annex the other week, and I get a text off Pauline, who's Dana? So, I rang her up and said, what do you want to meet? She said, I've had a text off somebody asking me, what time's Dana arriving? So she texts back and says, who's Dana? And this text has come back, don't talk like a prat, you know who I want to I miss Margaret's phone call to me, Dad, Pete needs to see you as soon as you can. I walk over and I think, oh God, what have I done now? And I walk in, Pete sits at his desk with an A4 sheet, we need to sort the car park out. I'll miss...
Parking space before you go.
No. I'll miss 21 years of building up relationships with suppliers that David Lane and his finance team have completely obliterated. For the right reasons, can I add? I'll miss mine and Jane's planning meeting that we used to have 10 minutes every month. It's now been replaced by 4 directors, 3 managers, 4 ordinary people doing it, and we still run out of engines on a Monday. But that's what I say, that's what's going to happen here.
Progress.
I'll miss stock taking,
No, you won't.
like a hole in the egg. I'll miss the Balti nights when we have to get the Baltis on a Thursday night ready for stock taking. And Peggy's come in, which is great, because Peggy used to organise it, and many a time I've seen Peggy running across the car park trying to save the poppadoms after the wind's gone. I miss walking around with the auditors on stock taking, when I have to take them to predefined locations to make sure the counts are right. But I'll say no more than that. Storekeepers, I don't know my great bunch of lads I've got now, but I've had some real good stories on storekeepers. I remember the one storekeeper, he used to sit, when he's down the bottom, he used to sit in the team room, and he used to eat his food, and every day he'd have the same thing every day, cheese sandwich, blah, 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 blah. And I went in there one day, and I said, you all right? He said, you know, he said, I'm sick to death of the same food all the while, cheese sandwiches, cheese sandwiches. I said, who puts your food up? He said, oh, I do it myself. What else? One day, this is a good one really. I walked on the shop floor and one of my storekeepers had got an electric drill in his hand. And I'm saying, what's he got an electric drill for? I goes up to him and he's drilling holes in his safety shoes, in the toe caps. That's what he's doing. He said, my feet sweat terribly in these, he said. I'm just going to give it some ventilation. He's drilling holes in his toe caps. Oh yeah. One of the other funny things was, a long time ago, I remember when my office was on the ramp that was down here one day, and I had such a kerfuffle outside, and I walked out in the office, and if ever remember Dave Jones was production manager, we had a right lad here called Tony Collins, and Tony Collins was built like the proverbial, yeah. Anyway, I walked out the office and I looked up, and Tony Collins has got Dave Jones pinned against the wall I just went, whoops, okay. I'm paid for logistics, not as a bodyguard. Just a few phrases, and I haven't really finished, just a few phrases. We had this thing with lean manufacturing, and I know these will stick close in your mind, and these are just one-liners. If it don't fit, don't force it. If it's not in its place, it's not in the factory. I'm not going to say that.
I'll be A45.
Stop, call, wait. If we have a problem, stop the track. We haven't done that, have we? Anyway, and the other phrase that really sticks in my mind is Jeff Naismith when Pete turns up on the shop floor. Pete, I need to talk to you about something. And he always does, don't you, Jeff?
Yes.
Just on the future really now, people know I've got a week and a half of time, then I go to France for 3 weeks. Then I go down, tell my caravan, which Pete needs to know to keep off the M5 on about the 26th of May, Pete. Because he knows that. I've got my 40th anniversary in June. I've got my son's getting married in June as well. And also, for the first time, I'm going to be grandparents in September, so it's going to be quite a nice, interesting year. And just summing up, I just think it's been a great 21 years. It's looked after me, the business has looked after me, and I think we look back on things and we say things happen for the best. And I think I just wish everybody the success, and I'm sure that you'll get it, and I'm sure I'll keep in touch with people, because as I said, it's not about the job now, it's about friends. And I've got a lot of friends, as it's proved today. So I just hope, and I do pray, and I think the business is in good hands, and I'm sure it will, and for the success for the future. Thanks a lot.